All right, for segment 2 today, I am covering Mysteries of Magic, Book 1, The Heart of Magic. Could there be a longer title? But no, this is a book that, let me tell you, I didn't even know if I wanted to read, and now I can't live without. This book, I am not going to be able to do it justice. It is only a, how many pages is this book? It is only a, can't open it, 96-page book. But even more so than Mutants in Orbit, it is filled with information that you are going to want for your Palladium Fantasy game, and we're going to look at it in just a moment. The best tabletop RPG groups follow these core values to respect the campaign setting, the game, and the people at the table. Refer to the URL in the video's description to donate to the charity we support, the Wounded Warrior Project. Sunday on Rumble and YouTube, we provide tabletop RPG game, system, and setting overviews. Then on Friday, a panel of guests editorialize on the TTRPG hobby as a whole. Thursdays and Saturdays are when Heathen Dog leads his Dirty Casuals video game squad on twitch.tv/Legion of Myth. Please like and share this video with your friends and on social media, and subscribe to Legion of Myth for more tabletop RPG content. All right, this is going to be really fun because I only have 3 monitors. And I have notes that are actually not on note cards this time. So I have to look over there so you can see that. So, all right, well, here's the cover. Actually, I like the art on this cover. It really fits the bill. Here's something that I didn't know, at least according to when you try to buy it or search for it on Palladium. Okay, apparently, this is good for Rifts as well. There are a couple Rifts commentaries in here, but for the most part, this is a Palladium fantasy book. Now, we had a questioner. Can you put up that super chat or that chat, that starred chat? Let's answer that now.
Okay.
Nope, not that one. The one that said that the one that I starred. I hopefully didn't delete it. There you go. So is there a Rifts version? Let me boom. Here's the Rifts version. And I do not have it. I am not a Rifts guy, but then again, 850 spells, 370 magic. I might just get this book.
Hot damn.
Elemental magic, by the way, which is something I'm going to bring up about Mystery of Magic. Anyway, so to answer your question, Sound Surgeon, this is the book, the Rift's Book of Magic, and it looks fantastic. I don't know, but if you get 850 spells in there, as long as it's not, Monster Summoning 1, Monster Summon, no, I shouldn't say that. That's Magic Missile 1, Magic Missile 2, Magic Missile 3, then that's worth the buy right there. So look at all those... I'm sure, yeah, Techno Wizard. This is why I'd want to get it. Techno Wizard weapons and devices, because I really want to learn about more of that stuff. Anyway, so there you go. Let's go back to this over here. Get my notes back up. So, by the way, 96 pages. That's all this book is. Really good book, though. Again, an unnecessary disclaimer. I know Sean disagrees, but who cares if somebody believes in witchcraft or not? I just don't get it.
Well, hang on. Here's a good rule of thumb for living a life without stupid people. If someone comes up to you and says that they believe magic is real, walk away. Do not associate with them. Do not entangle your life with them in any way, if possible. Get away. They're unstable. That's it.
All right. This PDF version, the version I have in print here is the second printing. I don't know if there's a difference between first and second printing, but all right. So let's. I was looking for note cards. I don't have note cards. I have. So the book starts off by trying to classify magic. All right. So let's scroll down. Oh, you know what? I do want to show this off. Without there being an index, absolute best quick find table I think I've seen of the Palladium books. I might be wrong about that, but of the ones that I know of, you can find everything you're looking for in these quick find tables. And they're actually organized correctly. Like as in, I want to find out all different things about PPE. Instead of having to look all over the place, no, it's just under PPE, 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 PPE. Fantastic. Oh, all the OCCs right there. Absolutely fantastic. So that was something that I noticed right off the bat that worked really well. So There's a glossary in here on how to define magic. The purpose of this is so that you're using the terms that the Palladium Fantasy world uses. Now, does it matter that it matches real world terms? No, it's a game. So as long as he defines it here, his definition of acolyte, apprentice, clergy, et cetera, is obviously going to meet most of the definitions that you'd have. But there you go. Now you know what he's talking about when it comes in. Then we get into the history. Now, we are not going to dive into the history. And at first, I was like, who cares? No, actually, this helped me out. It really did help me out. And we're going to read a couple of, a few paragraphs in here total. It's quite a few pages of this history. And what it has to do with, I can't see, there's about 10 pages or so, what it has to do with the history of Palladium Fantasy and how it actually affects magic in the Palladium Fantasy world. Because something you might not know is that the Palladium Fantasy world is at its lowest magical power of its history right now. If you're playing in second edition Palladium Fantasy. The world before that had much more magic in it. So it says here, page 7, that's 9. So why am I looking at page 7? Okay. Oh, okay. I don't know why. I thought this was important at the time, but it really isn't. Magical science versus mystic art. I don't really care about that definition now. Apparently, I did when I was writing my notes. But as a general, what's that?
Well, no. Mystical science is your D&D wizard, where formulae, study, and preparation and all that stuff is and a certain kind of mathematics is the cornerstone of magic, whereas the mystic art is more shamanistic. It's more witches who are imbued.
It's literally learned versus bestowed.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the two different sides of magic in all of Palladium, learned or bestowed.
And they make no difference in game.
And this book function exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's mostly flavor, a little bit of advancement here and there. Like you can learn more spells if you are a wizard type, a magical science type, but you have access to a greater range of spells at every level you increase.
You're getting way ahead of what I'm going to be covering here.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
All right. So I tried to find little snippets in this history that would be important without, again, this isn't a full read through, and it's not a deep dive. There are going to be major portions of this book I skipped. By the way, if you think I skipped a portion that's important, I apologize. But the fact of the matter is, this is just an overview. So one of the things that people who know about the history of Palladium books, you've heard of the Tristan Chronicles. So for the most part, the text presented in the Tristan Chronicles is accepted as a definitive source of ancient history, not because it is the best source, but because it is the only source. And this whole thing up here goes into that there are people in the world, obviously fictitious people in the world, who don't necessarily believe what the Tristan Chronicles have to say, but it is the definitive source. So we really don't care about the extensive history here. So let's go into the Age of Chaos and the Great Battle. It says under dawn of time. Yep. What is known? Okay, here we go. This paragraph is the one I found was important. What is known is that the beginning of the world was a time of horrible miracles when magic power flowed, there we go, freely across the land. In such quantities that there was no true darkness, and nearly every point on the globe was lit from dusk till dawn with the blue light of ley lines. Everything magical in this book is about blue lights of some sort. Many ruins, which seem to be located without reason today, far from water or good land, were once the sites of powerful ley line nexus points. In short, places of magic, places where vast flowing natural rivers of magic energy existed, crossed and swelled with power, places where entire races were created and destroyed during the early age, in the eons uncounted by any save the old ones. We'll move on to the next. Again, I'm just giving you little snippets of each of these ages. So now we're at the Age of Light, the Battle of Gods. So after, what was this first age called again? I already forgot. The Dawn of Time, the Age of Chaos and the Great Battle. Now we have gods. Gods are stepping in and saying, hey, we kind of like this joint a little bit. Let's go see if we can get some followers and bestow our power upon them to support our causes. So page 11, that's this. column 1, paragraph 1. I'm glad and it says one wizard. Okay. There we go. One wizard can often do what it would take a physicist, a chemist, 3 engineers, and a skilled diplomat to accomplish in a fraction of time. And I'll get to why that's important in a moment here. Those who are interested in how the world works are most often directed towards men of magic, further perpetuating the cycle which keeps the Palladium world backward compared to technological worlds. What it's trying to say here, and what this entire thing leading up to this says, is that a lot of people well, they could just engineer this. They could just, they could invent parachutes. Nobody'd think of that because there's so much magic prevalent in the world at this point. It's all over the place. They just fly.
Yeah.
And if I can't fly, Heathen Dog would bestow it upon me.
Why would you invent parachutes when everyone has a levitation stone? What's the point?
Right. And it works like magic. Magic was so prevalent, it was almost hard to be without it. It's almost like the world was Earth Dawn back at this point. So then we get into the age of 1,000 magics. Several things can... What's that? Go ahead. Yeah, no, there we go. Several things can be said about the age of 1,000 magics. First and foremost, it seems that many of the basic spells known to modern wizards, that'd be, today, Palladium Fantasy wizards, were invented during this period. Likewise, the 19 power words seem to have been settled on their current forms at this time. And then it goes in and talk about that people don't know what was done before then or where the power words came from, etc. And now everybody's favorite, if you were to talk to people about this, the Elf-Dwarf War. So the elves and dwarves were friends until suspicion festered between them, and the fall of a god of light increased the atrocities to incalculable levels. So there's a god who's like, he got, was it Set, I think it was? I already forgot. But he fell, he became a little nutsoid, and decided that, the best way to end a war is to commit more atrocities. Then people want to stop having war. Guess how well that worked out for him?
Oh, probably not great.
Yeah, not great at all. So having nearly wiped themselves out, there it is right there. Having nearly wiped themselves out, the elves and dwarves resolved to never let something like this happen again. They began to seek out, and this is important for the future of the world, which is why I'm reading this. They began to seek out and investigate every type of magic they could. Upon finding the seed of evil that it might carry, destroy it. Thus began the millennium of purification, the loss of rune magic. Now, it was more than just that. All types. There's so much magic then, and actually, most of the people back then were more specialized than even the wizards of the modern Palladium world were. There was magic of all sorts. Almost all of it, due to mistrust, was deemed as evil and removed from the planet. And you had a choice: stop practicing or die. That's my paraphrasing. They did not play around, and this is one of the few things the elves and dwarves agreed upon after they pretty much blew up the world. 16 in the 1,000 years. Is this 16? Yep. Oh, there we go. In the 1,000 years of the millennium of purification, many dark magics and questionable magical sciences, many born during the age of the 1,000 magics, were forever purged or banished from the world. Unfortunately, many forms of magic that were not tainted with evil, but misunderstood or feared for their potential abuse, were also destroyed. You know what? If you can't tell, destroy it. If you're not sure,
take it out.
Yep. When in doubt, take it out. Exactly. That was the mentality. They were so scared of what magic could do. Now it's funny because this is where some things that were removed from the Palladium world were found again for rifts. And there are, like I said, there are some rifts aspects in this book. All right. Let's see, 16, column 2, the time of man. Oh, there it is. The time of man has seen relatively little innovation in the realms of magic. If anything, magic is at its weakest and least powerful state ever. While practitioners of magic still wield considerable power and influence and often find lofty positions within the halls of magical science and courts of aristocracy, they are not the wizard kings, generals, or powerful conduits of social change they were in the past. Rune magic is rumored to have been rediscovered a handful of times over the last 6,000 years, each resurgence resulting in the violent and messy end of whomever learned it before their knowledge could be passed on, and certainly before it could be widely disseminated. They are not taking this as a joke. All right, so I don't like looking over there when the camera's there, but with those little tidbits of history out of the way, now it's time to look into the source and theory of magic. Again, we're not deep diving into this. There's just way too much here. That history that I gave you, I pulled out a paragraph that you can see in here that it's talking about rifts. It's talking about adventures in high seas. It's talking about warlockery. You can see that it's going into a lot of things that if this interests you, the Palladium world history with regard to magic interests you, you got to read it. We're going to spend a lot of time on potential psychic energy. Why? Because this is really the conduit for all magic. Do you disagree with that, Eden?
No, that's correct. It's the fuel. It's the fuel for all magic.
So, with those little tidbits of history out of the way, now it's time to look in the source and theory of magic. Magic is the result of properly channeling and focusing potential psychic energy, or PPE. In order to live up to your full potential, you must start your magical training in adolescence or earlier. That was something I did not know until I read this book. It's much easier to learn magical disciplines when young because PPE is plentiful and the mind is open and ready to learn. Now, there are some aspects of that in the main game where kids have more PPE available to them. When you die, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, you have that double amount and so forth. But there's actually basically a rule in here, and they made OCCs based around it in this book. If you are over the age of 20, you suffer greatly if you decide you want to become a caster. And I don't know if that's something you knew, Heathen Dog, but it surprised me when I read it.
I didn't know about the 20-year rule, but I did know that because mages turn themselves into PPE batteries where they can hold so much more than even at their max level when they were kids, that starting from a lower total is going to be a lot more arduous. So I get.
By the way, it talks about. I wanted to highlight mouse. There we go. It talks about exactly what I was just saying right in that chapter there, or paragraph there. All right. That says so. Column 2. Sorry. Those who come to learn magic, in addition to the practitioner. Oh, right at the beginning. In addition to the practitioner of magic's own PPE reserves, most meta magic can draw, channel, and use PPE energy from an outside source. That potential psychic energy drawn or siphoned from other living beings, typically via ritual or blood sacrifice, or from rare PPE containers such as an amulet or talisman. Are they really that rare? There's a couple of spells that create those.
Yeah, but they take permanent PE hits and stuff like that for the person making it. So they're pretty rare because no one wants to mass produce these things because you'll end up like a frail 90-year-old man at 25.
We're not going to talk about familiars other than to kind of just give them a quick overview here, or a very, very quick overview here. But familiars are interesting in Palladium. And I got to tell you, at first read, I really like them. Spoiler alert, they take your permanent PPE to actually boost their power. I kind of like that balance of like, do I keep it for me or do I give it to my familiar? Anyway, this outside energy can be temporarily drawn into and around the mage to cast spells or perform feats of magic, but cannot be made a permanent part of the sorcerer's PPE reservoir, nor can it be invested in psychic abilities, new talents, skills, or attributes. Okay. Yep. I already did that. What? Yeah. At death, a person's physical, it's not physical prowess, potential psychic energy doubles and disperses into the unknown. There are concepts out there. Some people think it does some people think it does something else, but in game mechanics, it just goes poof. Grab it right then and there, or it's gone. If the character's PPE is captured, the character's essence is not. What that means is that, again, there's right, that's the exact word. It is not your soul. It is not your consciousness, not your essence. You're not trapped in something. It's just your magical power. And so,
well, that's one reason they got rid of rune magic.
Oh, well, fair. Yeah. Goes into. All right. So what goes into making magic? So. What? Without mastery. Okay, I don't even know where that is. Oh, it's such middle of the paragraph. I should make my notes better. Without mastery of every aspect of magic, a character could stand on a ley line. Again, there's a reason why I brought this up. I've seen these things happen in the game where people be like, hey, I'm standing on a ley line. I can do magic now, right? No. Let's read this again. Without mastery of every aspect of magic, a character could stand on a ley line nexus interconnected with a dozen ley lines and still be completely unable to do anything magical. Not a thing. Nothing. No matter how hard he tried or how desperately he might need it to happen. All right. So mystical energy, and this is the part where it definitely goes beyond the scope of the main book, must be combined with belief, conviction, focus, and direction, all brought into play via knowledge and a number of mental disciplines. Now, we're going to look at just these headers right here, but really, this is what it is. You have to visualize it, and then you use your will, PPE, to materialize it. That's what it comes down to. Visualize it, materialize it. If you do those two things, everything else fits into there. So you have to have belief. You have to believe magic works. Well, guess what? You're living on a world full of magic. That's not hard.
Yeah, check.
Yeah, exactly. We can move on. You have to understand the principles of magic. And it takes 4 to 15 years of study to do this. Well, I learned magic last week. No, you did not. Okay.
You may have finished learning magic last week, but you didn't learn it last week.
Right. Because there is actually a science behind the hocus pocus. Now, that science isn't necessarily defined here, but it talks around it enough to let you know that's legit, at least in terms of the game. The broad spectrum of knowledge and deep study. Remember, every man of magic, OCC, has a list of skills the common man can only dream of. And we're going to talk about that when it comes to OCC and side jobs, I think in the next video. You have to have mental discipline. You have to be able to visualize properly while under duress and then materialize. And then finally are the power words. And I think there's something here I wanted to read about the power words because I thought that they were, the words are, okay, yeah, down here. So the words are as important to the magic as the energy and training. Without some sort of vocalization and visualization, magic simply will not work. Words and symbols help the mage to focus and direct the magic to create the desired effect. In that regard, they're the final step in creating magic. This separates the wizard from the psionic. You are not just doing loo. You are calling out words of power. Now, does your game master say you can whisper them? I would say that's a bad game master, except for maybe low-level spells. But you do have to vocalize them. Now, I don't think you have to shout them from a mountaintop, but you should have to say them with some sort of power. And we're not going to get into all the words of power. They're talked about in the main book, but if you stop and read that paragraph right there, it'll talk a little bit about it. Okay, so sources of... Sources of PPE beyond oneself. And I'm breezing through this really quickly because there's a lot of information here and we got a lot of things to talk about. So the most common form is your own PPE. Hey, you're a mage. You've got PPE, right? The next is channelings, where through rituals you can store 50% more. 50% more. Oh my God, let's just look at it right here. For a very short period, hold up to 50% more PPE than normal maximum up to their physical endurance and melee rounds. This is where my notes confuse these two stats. Each melee round is 15 seconds. So you can store more and you're like, yay, I got 50% more, which you might be able to do. But there's a drawback to that. The mage feels bloated and painful. Okay, that's just fluff. As if he ate too much. Just touch of dizziness. Speed, physical attacks per melee round, combat bonuses, and perception rolls are all reduced by half. Attacks per melee round. And all skill performance is reduced by 10% while supercharged. So you're going to be blasting out some spells, but that's a lot of negatives.
It's true, but that whole half number of attacks per melee round usually doesn't mean anything. That's worthless.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because there are rules in here about fast casting and whatnot.
Okay. Stolen
from Rifts, by the way. All right, so you can channel PPE. Well, let's where we got that. We already talked about the rituals. You have PPE batteries. Is that on this page? No, where are the batteries? Where's my battery? Okay, PPE batteries, vast amount. It's again ceremony where you're just taking more PPE from dead people or from Heathen Dog himself, as long as he's willing to give it up. So,
Gimme.
ley lines. Ley lines are literally endless. You can stand on a ley line and get the bonus forever.
Oh, it's the adult version of forever.
It says forever here.
I know it says, but one human mage cannot exhaust the supply of a planet's PPE throughout his entire lifetime. There's no point. It may not even look like a blip happened.
Right.
But it's not infinite because we know that because it's gone up and down, right? But at the scale we're talking about, it's the adult version of infinite.
Yeah. So, and you get a plus 10 PPE. So here it is right here. You can continually draw upon 10 PPE. So there you go. 10 PPE per round bonus. At a nexus, for each additional ley line that's in there, you get an additional 10 PPE.
Now, you might be thinking, why does that matter? I can only store up to 50% more in my body. What the hell? No, you don't get it. All the spells you cast in that round come from this first before touching your personal supply.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're on a nexus point that has 3 ley lines, that's what, 30 or 40 PPE, depending on what the rule said, 30 or 40 PPE every round that you can use for free.
How many total ley lines are there at that nexus?
There you go. Pew, 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 pew. Free bullets.
1 ley line is 10, 2 ley line nexus is 20, 3 ley line nexus is 30, and so forth. You can also take PPE from other people. By the way, it's much easier to do that from somebody who's willing.
Yes.
And then blood sacrifice. And apparently I said read this for some reason. Okay, blood sacrifice to acquire PPE. Despite what you may think, blood sacrifice is very common even among civilized people.
Sure.
Most practitioners of magic who use blood sacrifices don't kill sentient beings, but animals, which is not illegal nor looked down upon by most cultures. Oh, this is why I'm reading it, because blood sacrifice, you're an evil person. Hold on a moment here.
There are lots of cultures that kill chickens to tell the future or whatever. It happens.
Just as magic is commonplace and accepted, so are rituals such as slaughter of live animals. To help make the sacrificial act even more acceptable, many sorcerers donate the slain or butchered animal to local church, community center, farmer, or the needy. Since most rituals are performed in secret, the fact an animal was slain and the reason why, and for that matter, less socially conscious use or disposal of the sacrificial animal, is not likely to even be known to the public or even one's neighbor. That there's a little dichotomous there, and then the last one is human sacrifice, which we're not going to read, but you get the idea. Mm-hmm. So, this book then delves into the various races. Here we go. Changelings, coils, which are the evil wolfen. They're not evil. Yes, they are. Demons, devils, dwarves, etc., gnomes, and so on and so forth. And let's scroll down to careers in magic. This is something because I want to talk about skills in the next chapter. We're actually going to backtrack to this in the next chapter. Hopefully I marked the page down because it talks about doing side jobs and what you can get for that as a wizard. Look at all these pages. Then it goes into the clergy. Again, we're not talking much about the clergy today. We will talk a little bit about their new OCCs, which I think the clergy version of them is written up worse than the magic user version, because you only see them in these blurbs here, where the magic user version is a pure OCC write-up. And then Secrets of Wizardry, which will start what we're going to talk about in the next video. This book is dense. I got to tell you, it's a really good book for both the fluff and the game mechanic side of it. I actually think that like these OCCs we're going to talk about in the next video are better than the ones written in the book. The main book, that is. That's not fully true. But anyway, go ahead and pop up the questions.
Okay. First we have, I've never even heard of this book. Well, I've heard of it, but I've never gotten it, never read it. And
well, you don't really do Palladium Fantasy much,
no,
do you?
I don't do Palladium Fantasy a lot, but so, I should still know what's in it. Now I do. I'm thankful. But, I didn't know anything about what's in this. I mean, from what other people have said, like Violence, even right here, all the magic and items in this book are collected from all the other Rifts book printed before it and put into here.
Yeah, that's about the book that I showed off at the beginning, the Rifts version of the book, the 850 spells and so forth.
Yeah, but a lot of the ages of the universe that was first done in the old ones book for Palladium Fantasy. It was first penned there, and it's reprinted here. Stuff like that.
If you want more explanation as to why, like, well, Max, that paragraph you read sounds kind of dumb. No, it's explained. But I had to pull out one paragraph to give you because it's an overview. Heathen Dog, one of my favorite books from AD&D Second Edition. I love these books. The what is it? Sorry, the Encyclopedia Magica. These are magic items. Yep. This is just one book. It's actually a 4-book series. Wizard's Spell Compendium. Love these books. And all these is a compilation of all the spells ever written up to this time in the main book, Dragon magazines, other sources. So the fact that Rift's magic book is 850 spells that are just compilation, I shouldn't say just, good. I want to have a central source.
Yeah. See, look what I was talking about. This is the old ones book, and this is the first edition Palladium Fantasy old ones deal. And it has the, from what I understand, it's the first timeline of the Palladium Fantasy universe that first encompasses the old ones, how they fell, then the birth of the gods, and then the Elf Dwarf War, blah blah blah, all that stuff like that. It's all in here. So this is another compilation deal, which as Max said is good. It's excellent. Compilations make life easier, especially if you don't have the money or the time to collect all these other sources.
I just like having it one source so I can find the spell or the item or whatever. Right. And not have to be like, which book was that in? Oh, it's in the old ones book. Well, I don't have the old ones book. Now I'm not going to let you do it because I'm the game master. If I don't have the book and understand how it affects the game,
you're not going to ruin my game because I can't account for it. Yeah, that's right. And then Kokoshuko says, how many kids do I have to blood sacrifice for an 800 PPE spell? 40.
Okay.
No. The around the average PPE of a child between like 5 and 10 years old is around 20. When they die, that goes to around 40. So 800 divided by 40 is 20, right? Is that good stream math?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading something else. I say yes.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to kill a lot of kids, but if that is your metric for being good or bad, you're on the wrong page of your life book. You really are. But I only killed 20 kids. I only killed 30 kids. I didn't kill 50 kids.
I can tell you that the human sacrifice, which includes not just humans, like just call it human sacrifice, is something that's kind of frowned upon, as in don't do it. They're going to come after you. Remember how serious they were about purging magic that could kind of have detrimental results, even if they weren't sure? Mm-hmm. Think about what they're going to do if they find human sacrifice.
Yeah. Rune magic requires you to trap a soul in an item. It makes a super powerful item that lasts forever, but it's inherently bad. And so they got rid of them. If you are a wizard who constantly kills sentient beings for power, everyone's going to come after you. Everyone who's not you is going to come after you at some point. You're not going to make it. So if you're going to do blood sacrifice, plan it really well. Don't let anyone know, and do it one time and then leave.
Well, blood sacrifice is okay.
No, I meant human sacrifice.
Human sacrifice, right? Yeah.
Or, sentient creature sacrifice.
There you go.
But yeah, do it one time. Don't let anyone know you're going to do it. And by the time they figure out what you've done, leave. And then you'll be okay. Other than that, I don't recommend it.
Okay, anything else?
That is it.
Can you hit that last comment from Ghost?
Sure.
It says the second book has been on their to-do list for 4 years, and Kevin didn't have timeline for it. Well, hey, check this out. I'm telling you this book, if you do Palladium Fantasy, it's probably not as useful for Risk. Actually, I can tell you it's not as useful for Risk. But if you play Palladium Fantasy, or you want to know more about the Palladium Fantasy magic, you want this book. I cannot praise this book well enough. Not that I agree with every little thing in here. I never do. But it is an amazing book. Buy it. if they see a lot of sales of this book, maybe that would encourage them to do the second book. Because I can't wait for a second book. Because as we're going to talk about in the next video, there's kind of a lack of spells in this one. It doesn't have 850, that's for sure.
That's for sure. But this book is not just good for Palladium Fantasy. I would posit that in any SDC world that has Magic, this book is useful.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. I have one complaint about this book, and I forgot to mention this, but I have one complaint. And that is, and I don't have the chapter, I didn't go back to find the paragraph where it was written, but the book alludes to talking about an elementalist in this book. Like, that's different than the warlock. It's not in the book. So either I misread that, but I was like, okay, cool, we're going to have an elemental, because that's actually something I've always enjoyed elementalists. And I think the warlock is a little weird. So I was like looking forward, and I was like, I got to the end of the book. I'm like, wait a minute, there was no elementalist in this book. So either I misread the paragraph, which is possible, or the book alludes to it and then just doesn't do it. So hopefully in book 2, we get the elementalist and not the elemental fusionist, because that was garbage.
No, that was gross. It's a gross OCC. Never use it. And it's a good litmus test for
what not to do
or not.
Yeah. But anyway, cool. Look for it. Can you put up I don't have access to like, subscribe, share. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, want to yell at me for skipping something, want to say I got something wrong. I literally read paragraphs. How did I get something wrong? Go ahead and then put in the comments. If you like this, seriously, let Kevin and Sean know by buying the book and expanding your Palladium collection.